And we are live. Welcome in. Another Dynasty and Beers. Episode 8. Dan and I, I don't think we've ever had a guest for Dynasty and Beers, right?
I think we had one. We had Matt. He's been the only guest on Dynasty and Beers, but usually it's just you and I. That's kind of the idea of it, is just us chatting it up like after we record. Although we haven't recorded any videos in a while. Hopefully we'll get back to that at some point here. But we've been loving doing the live streaming.
Yeah, we got one recorded, so we got to get that up, and then we'll go on to our next record some more stuff going forward.
Yeah.
But
but we did get some nice feedback though on that blind comps video. So we got to get back to the grind here.
Yeah, definitely, and even we got a lot of videos to make. We got a lot of ideas.
Oh yeah,
and stuff,
we got a lot of ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to get into that. So stuff to come. We got to get on that. But yeah, we got Dynasty Beers. It feels like there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm seeing a lot of reports because OTAs just started. So there's a lot of news for whatever it's worth. I know it's not always the you can't take the most of the first day of OTAs, and this guy's got big quads, and this guy lost 10 pounds and whatever. But there's some interesting. Yeah, there's been some interesting stuff I saw. I sent you a couple. One was Bieniemy, who is just looks like the worst coach to ever play for. He just loves ripping into his players, and he was calling Monangai, like he said he looked like he was like an old grandpa or something.
Yeah, old man. Yeah, doing this drill where it's just I don't even know what to call it, but they're like those pads on the ground, and you're lifting your feet up and chopping them real fast over through these over these pads, and he did look kind of slow. So I don't know what the deal was there, but I do like Monangai. I don't think he plays slow. Although I know you had some thoughts about that, but in any case, I like Monangai. I haven't been following real closely the reports that have been coming out of OTA so far. So yeah, I should get on that more. But yeah, I think it will be interesting to kind of hear what hype starts to build up as we get further into it.
Yeah, I'll mention a couple quick things about just what I read today. But first, we'll mention we're going to go over at some point Colossal Tighten Up in the break room for anyone who's in there. He's made a couple trades. He wanted mentioned Dan, Dan's thoughts on it. So we'll go over that at some point later on.
Because I was just DMing with him, and he wanted to get my thoughts on his couple of his recent trades. So I figured, hey, why don't we just break it down live here on Dynasty and Beers? So we will do that probably closer to the end of the episode. Yeah,
no, that should be fun. And a couple other things I saw. This one, take it for what it's worth. Jamari Thrash is the starting slot receiver the first day of OTAs. And here's the thing, they didn't even mention, now, DeAndre Johnson can kind of line up anywhere. They actually didn't I would just kind of assume the slot, because they have Judy, they have Tillman, kind of more of those outside receivers. God, who was it? There was some crazy name, was splitting reps with him though when Thrash came out. And it was not Deontay Johnson, it was,
David Bell?
No, it was not David Bell. It was I didn't even know he was on the roster. It was some crazy, I don't know if it was that crazy name. Maybe I could look at their roster, but I was really?
Some kick returner or something like that? Something really out there?
No, it was maybe an older guy that just has been on a few let's see. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Someone you didn't even know was in the NFL anymore? Was it
Rashard
Higgins or someone like that?
It was DeAndre Carter. It was DeAndre Carter. So it was a veteran and everything you just said. So I don't know. That's pretty interesting though. So Jamari Thrash, maybe those other players weren't at the first day of OTAs.
Actually, you just triggered something I did remember. I feel like everything I've been reading on Sleeper, anytime, on Sleeper when you're looking at a player either on your team or on waivers or whatever. And what does it have? The little yellow box, I think, lit up. It's ooh, there's some kind of news on him. So, you click on it. Every time I've done that for a player on my team, just as I'm looking through different dynasty teams, I click on like, oh, what's the news item? And it seems like every time I've done that, like the past few days this week, it always inevitably says like this player is not at voluntary OTAs. Like that seems to be the story for like every time I see something the past few days. So yeah, I don't know, like how are you looking at that? Like I feel like more and more like NFL players are just really taking it as the literal meaning of like voluntary and just like not showing up. But I feel like that used to be like a bigger deal. Is that not as big a deal now? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't been noticing who's been not there. And
well, I brought it up because Deontay Johnson wasn't there.
I see.
I feel like for him, like that's not a great look because like
yeah.
what he's gone through or what he's not even gone through, but what he's created. You know, just like the drama and how he's bounced from like team to team and just kind of has basically turned into Antonio Brown near the end of his career. I feel like if he really wants to have a clean slate and like turn a new page and like start fresh in Cleveland and be something better than he has been like the past like year, you'd think you'd want to show up to that.
You would think. I mean, I don't know. It is voluntary, but yeah, it's normally you want to show up. I did see all the Vikings showed up. There was no one missing, so you know, I don't know. I guess they want to be there and good culture. But I don't know. Sometimes people have like other like do have some kind of commitment, or maybe they're at a wedding or whatever it is. So it's always hard to know exactly what is going on with these people.
I get that. Like that's totally legitimate and everything. But like a lot of times, like the best players are the ones that are like obsessed with football and like sacrificing other things to like prioritize football. I mean, you think of like Tom Brady and like I mean, I bet Tom Brady has like never missed a voluntary OTAs. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but like no one's perfect.
Yeah, I guess quarterback is.
I bet Tom Brady was at every voluntary OTA.
I'm sure quarterback is a different conversation though, because you need to be there as a QB. You can't be missing OTAs. But
that's fair.
If you're a different skill position, it's just not as important as the starting quarterback or fighting for a job as a quarterback, whatever it is.
But fair or not, when I saw that story on Deontay Johnson, who I do have in a few Dynasty leagues, and I kind of liked, I think I traded for him at least once and also got him off the waiver wire at least once, and I think I already had like a share, so I think I have at least like 3 shares now. And I kind of like that because I kind of thought like, if he can get it together, we know he can get open and catch the football and score fantasy points. And when he signed to the Browns, I was really happy. Like, oh man, like these shares might pay off now. And as soon as I saw that story wasn't at voluntary OTAs, I just suddenly got this like feeling of dread of like, oh man, like here we go again. Like this guy hasn't learned anything. So maybe that's completely unfair, but like that was just my thought. And then then my brain started going to like, okay, can I get off at Deontay Johnson? Will someone give me like a 4th for him? Or should I just get off now while he's worth something,
Yeah, I mean, I got off a 4th for him before he was on a team, like a 404, which was pretty happy. That was with Hawkeyes. I got a 311 as soon as he signed with the Browns, and I just like insta accepted it. Even like needed a kind of like a flex player. I got like it's a team where I have like some picks and just need to fill out a flex or two. I'm like, take it. I'll take the 311. I'll just have him.
But what's crazy is that like if he wasn't a head case and didn't have like this history of like bouncing from team to team and like I mean I don't even know exactly what the issue is, but like basically the fact that he can't like stay on an NFL roster for one reason or another. If it wasn't for that, if it was just about like football, I mean, he's a guy you'd probably would easily pay a second for like the kind of production he can give you. So it's just crazy how his value has just been destroyed by everything not having to do with football.
Yeah, and you see a lot of these players over. It's just kind of like we've seen this story before with players that are talented but can't get it together. Like it just, I'm just kind of willing to move on. Now, if you're talking waiver wire, I would like waste a spot on them. But if I'm paying something, that's kind of where I'm at with them. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I want to like buy into it, but I've just kind of been more, I don't know, maybe realist as far as just like, okay, you may be out there, but it doesn't mean he's gonna be like a fantasy dynasty asset. And even if he's kind of catching a couple balls, people might not be bought in, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a dicey asset, but the problem is, like, I don't think there are many other managers out there that really want him, so
Exactly.
I'm not even sure if I could get any pick for him, really. So
Well,
I'm probably just stuck with them, but...
Yeah, because the rookie drafts have already kind of went by. I mean, yeah, I was pretty happy when I got a 4 for him and then the 311, because, like, that's, like, my favorite spot of the entire draft, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it might be difficult to get something for him. He's really been dropping in the couple startups we did, like mid-20s and early 20s.
Anyways, I didn't mean to completely derail the conversation there, but yeah. Anything else that interesting you from OTAs other than just someone being absent from them?
Yeah, enough 10 minutes of Deontay Johnson
right.
talk. But Ricky Pearsall got a hamstring, so that's interesting to monitor.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just one thing. Is like, it's just. I mean, I've already been kind of out on him, though I completely acknowledge he could be a great redraft and like, or best ball, whatever pick. Like, he's a guy I'm more so on redraft right now. But man, like you hate to see these receivers that it's kind of like Downs going to last year, where it was just like, yeah, and he gets this huge ankle injury. It wasn't what he was like off with a stretcher. It sounded like he might not even play this season. And then now, the hamstring. I mean, we've seen Condre Miller have these like all these injury problems. So I don't know. Not a great start for Pearsall's offseason. They just said he's not going to be participating in OTAs like at all. So,
and that's unfortunate because just prior to hearing that news, like over the past few days, I've been having this thought of like I should probably get some more Pearsall. I just was starting to have a really good feeling about him this season. I mean, the fact that he was able to like show anything, fantasy wise, like toward the end of the season, like after getting shot and like everything he must have missed. I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly when that happened, but like I'm assuming he missed a lot of OTAs and that kind of thing as a rookie. And like think about what happened with like Roman Wilson when he suffered an early injury as a rookie, or Marshawn Lloyd. I mean, they did absolutely nothing. I mean, like did either of those guys even like record a touch in the NFL?
They just I mean, literally Lloyd. I read this crazy article on Lloyd. There was like more injuries than we even realized that he was dealing with.
Really?
Yeah, it was like multiple. Like he just didn't even like play. I think he had like one carry because like it was like one of the early weeks, and then he got hurt.
But compare that with Pearsall, who actually gets shot by a gun, and I mean, I know he didn't have like it's not like he had a stretch of like 5 games where he was like going off. But, I mean, I certainly remember that game against the Lions where he went off against us. I mean, what do you have, like double-digit catches and, well north of 100 yards? The fact that he was even able to put up, like, one game like that at the end of the season after getting shot, I think is pretty impressive. And, I mean, I love betting on those, like, second-year breakouts. So I just started thinking, like, man, like, maybe I should have some more Ricky Pearsall. And then, unfortunately to hear this. But, hey, if his value goes down from it, I mean, probably won't happen instantly, but if it does at any point, like I definitely could be buying there. Yeah,
here's a good conversation I think that I was thinking about somewhat recently. It's because, I mean, these Rome Odunzes and Pearsalls, like, they're really good redraft bets. That's always been the case. Like, these second-year receivers, because they don't cost you that much. They're like a mid to late round pick, depending on, who it is specifically. And they are often make a huge leap in their second year. And if they don't, whatever. You're just trying to hit these breakout players, right? But in Dynasty, it's a whole different case, right? Because Dynasty, we value youth and upside almost like potentially a little too much, just like from player to player, right? And so it's an interesting conversation of like, even though the second year receiver is something you want to bet on, is it like really like something in Dynasty that like you should almost be fading? And the reason I say that is if you just look at Ricky Pearsall, again, like I think he'd be really good, full PPR, redraft pick, whatever format like you're playing. But in Dynasty, now I don't know exactly where his value is now. It's going to vary league to league. But he's at like a late first, right? And I guess my point is like he needs to score points like a late first receiver to get there. I mean, think about how many receivers are kind of floating around a late first. Zay Flowers, I mean, you could say Addison, Olave, stuff like that. And I mean, these guys have put up top 20 wide receiver seasons. They're insane prospects, really good prospects, and just like people, they're just worth a late first because they were only the wide receiver 19 this season and wide receiver 22, whatever, like a couple seasons in a row, right? So like, I guess that's where I've been struggling with Pearsall. Like, is he going to be a top 10 receiver this year? Because, or like, does he have a chance of doing it?
Well, I think the difference is with some of those players you mentioned, like a Zay Flowers, he's done it for, I mean, how long has he been in the NFL? 2 years? Yeah,
just 2, yeah.
So, and of course, like, that's really not all that much, but with dynasty managers being as impatient as they are, it's like, he hasn't been a top 10 receiver yet. So we've seen a ceiling. So we don't care about him now. So even though he, probably should be worth a little more than like a late first, like that's all we're going to value him at. And a lot of people wouldn't even pay a late first for a guy like that.
Yeah.
And you can say the same about like a Jaden Reed and Jordan Addison. All those kind of like receivers. Whereas with Pearsall, I think it makes a big difference that he hasn't been in the NFL 2 years. You could argue he really hasn't even been in the NFL 1 year. I mean, technically he has, but with getting shot and everything that he missed, he didn't even really truly get a chance for like a full season under his belt. I mean, he didn't even really get an off season. So like really, I mean, this off season is kind of like his first off season. So you can nitpick about his age and that kind of thing, and that's a legitimate gripe in terms of his ceiling, in terms of dynasty value. But just in terms of his potential to produce fantasy points and help you win championships, I think it's very fair to say that we haven't seen his upside yet. So I think that makes a big difference in terms of how the average dynasty manager will look at a player like that. It's like, ooh, with Pearsall, there's still some mystery there. There's still some upside there. Like, who knows how high that ceiling could be. Whereas with the Reed and Flowers and Addisons of the world, it's like, we've seen that already. Like, they're just, wide receiver 2 or whatever, and that's all they're ever going to be, whether that's true or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's what my question is. Are we I guess, like, how realistic is it that he's anything more than a wide receiver 2? Because, he'll be, going into the 2026 season, he'll be a 26-year-old receiver that, let's just say he finished as the wide receiver 29, because that's what Jaden Reed was this year. Okay. I think that's that's a pretty reasonable finish. He's probably being drafted around that area anyways right now. For I don't know what his best ball AP would be, but he might be getting drafted a little bit behind that actually. Even I don't know. I'm not sure where he's going, but probably early 30s. And I guess my point is, what's this upside of, wide receiver 1? And I'm just thinking about Dynasty, right? Because there's so many, instant contributors you can get with a first that it's just, unless I had him just kind of hanging around on my rookie bench and I already own him, then sure, I can justify holding him if I can't get a first for him or whatever. But, man, I just feel like that's always been my issue with a lot of these receivers. There's so many of them, so many talented ones. And you're Chris Olave, and you put up, there's 2 really good wide receiver 2 seasons, and then you get concussed, and it's I don't know. There's so much upside with even him still. He's probably the same age as Pearsall, or even a few months younger potentially. And it's interesting to me that we know what Chris Olave is, and he's kind of plagued by this situation, and maybe something can change there. Whereas Pearsall, we've seen 2 games at him. And of course, he's had all these injuries, stuff like that. It's just very interesting to me how high, because of those 2 games. I mean, imagine where his dynasty value would be if he didn't have those 2 games, which of course he did. I'm just saying, imagine, because before those, he literally had 3 games in a row with 0 catches. Of course, he was shot. All that good stuff.
He's a rookie. I mean, look at how Marv disappointed, even though he had almost 900 yards. I mean, look at this season Odunze had. And we'll see how Marv and Odunze prove to be in their NFL careers, and we'll certainly get a pretty good sense of that. I think in year 2 with them, that'll be interesting to watch.
Well, here's my question.
Not every receiver is going to turn into Justin Jefferson, and that's okay. Not everyone can be that. If everyone could be that, it wouldn't be that special and that valuable. So. You need some Ricky Pearsalls and Jaden Reeds and Jordan Addisons in your lineup to win as well. So, I think we get a little too obsessed with upside sometimes. Just because he's not going to be Justin Jefferson doesn't mean he has, no value, and let me just get rid of him and cash out on a first. I just think it gets a little silly with, how often we do that is just like, what are you eventually hoping to find? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you're just like, not every player is going to be the stud.
Sure, I know, but here's my question: is okay if he puts up that wide receiver 29 season, what's his value next year? I'm just what I'm wondering, right? So he just is like a solid. I mean, it's probably his median outcome is around that area, right?
I'm sorry, his outcome is around what?
Like his median outcome for this season, right?
Yeah,
is probably around
wide receiver, finishes like wide receiver 29.
Yeah.
Okay, then you're asking like, what's his dynasty value?
Yeah, well, like I'm just wondering, what do you think happens with his value? In your opinion?
It probably depends to some extent about like, what does that wide receiver 29 season look like? Is he healthy for 17 games and that's like spread out pretty evenly over the season and just kind of a boring way? Or does he like maybe start the season slow and then like all of a sudden get red hot and he's like a league winner down the stretch? Yeah, he might be worth more in that scenario because like next offseason, that'll be fresh in our minds and it'll be like, oh my God, Ricky Pearsall, like, gotta get him, you know? Or like, what if he like misses a few games and okay, he finishes as wide receiver 29, but in points per game, he's like wide receiver 18, you know, something like that. That's going to feel a lot more impactful. And
sure, yeah. I guess like wide receiver 29 like points per game is more. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like it's like a true wide receiver 29 finish.
Gotcha,
And the reason I say that is because that's where Jaden Reed finished this last year, and no one cares about Jaden Reed like right now at all.
Well, yeah, I think it'd be similar. I think you'd put Pearsall in that exact same category.
Yeah, and Reed had a really good rookie season, of course too, like under his belt. So that's what I was curious because the Pearsall he could break out. He could be like a huge PPR scam guy. But again, I'm just really interested because he had those 2 games at the end of the season, and I wonder what his value would be right now if he didn't have those. Like I'm just so curious of what it would be.
I mean, he'd be like Luke McCaffrey, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like he really might. I'm sure he'd be higher because of the Ayuk injury and Debo and stuff. But I'm sure he'd be going. I mean, he might be going under where Debo is right now. Like, I mean, just because we would have saw nothing out of him basically. So and, he had them. He had the games, like right. So you can't take that away from him. But again, it's like how high should he, from the hypothetical value where he would have been had he let's just say he doesn't even play those 2 games, he's hurt or whatever. I mean, I'm just so curious of like what it would be because you see with like Condre Miller, like maybe Condre Miller had a couple games like going to one of my favorite guys. Maybe he would have had those. He did have a good game, but like maybe because he didn't have that second good game. What if he did have that second good game? Condre Miller could have been worth like an early second in the offseason, and then good reports are out. But it's interesting.
Like Pearsall has first round draft capital, so
of course,
I think that would be a big difference. But I hear you.
But yeah, I mean, Condre Miller was actually drafted in the same part of rookie drafts as all, so I thought it didn't now that it's the hamstring, so that at least relates. But yeah, I mean, we saw it because of the offseason stuff. I mean, Miller was just such a huge faller, but like, we even saw a flash out of him, and it's like, oh man, he was hurt, and no one was like caring about him after that.
I think, but another difference is like Condre Miller's injuries. It's like that's more of something that like, ooh, is that going to continue? Whereas like you don't look at Pearsall and be like, oh yeah, he's likely to get shot again this offseason.
Yeah, but now he's got the hamstring though, so.
What hamstring? You mean the thing from OTAs?
Yeah, like now he's missing OTAs with the hamstring.
Now he does, but yeah.
No, I'm just curious though, because that's what I'm saying. It's interesting to like, I love to like, compare profiles of players with what we're seeing, like what we've seen in the past, right? So like we've seen like Josh Downs, like a player that showed some flashes the rookie season, had some injury issues, and then boom, no one cares about him because he got hurt before, including me, because he got hurt prior to his second season. Oh, he's actually a really good receiver and had a really successful season. And still no one really cares about Josh Downs. Like, it's just...
Well, that's okay. I'll just roster Josh Downs, and I'll start him, and I'll score fantasy points, and I'll sleep like a baby.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just... These receivers, it's with Pearsall and Shakir falls in it. It's like if you don't have this, like... It's really insane elite skill set. Like Chris Olave, for example. Like even if you do have that, you're not guaranteed to have a good. And your dynasty value is still going to go down if you're not a wide receiver 1. Look at Garrett Wilson. He was a wide receiver 1, and you still like can't get 2 firsts for him. And he's been like one of the best rookies coming out of after 3 years. It's just I just find it fascinating that like I mean, like really in trade value, like in a league, if I owned and I had to sell off Garrett Wilson, like I just had to do it in a day, like I'm probably not getting much more than him in a real league than I am like a Ricky Pearsall. Like I may get a second and a third more, or 2 seconds more, but like the gap between their talent, like because like let's entertain you get like what is the two guaranteed 112 next year for Pearsall right now. You can make that trade, right? Mm-hmm. How much more are you getting on that to trade Garrett Wilson right now?
I mean, I would value them around like 2 random firsts.
Yeah, but how much are other like your league mates? How much are they going to pay for him? Like no one's paying 2 firsts for him.
I feel like they're going to want to pay less than that. They're going to want to give you like a first and a second, and a third, or they're going to want to give you like 2 late projected firsts, but you got to kick me back that interesting sleeper on your bench kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's where like my mind goes of just like this confusion about receivers is like this insane start to the season or career that Garrett Wilson has had. Like he's in a real league, he's really not that much harder to get than like a Ricky Pearsall right now. Like truly, it's not that much. Like what's the difference if it was 2 seconds? Let's say.
I mean, if you're willing to pay up like a first and a second, I think you could probably get Ricky Pearsall from a lot of managers. But if you're just looking to like, I'll give you 2 seconds, or I'll give you the first attached to this juggernaut team that you know is going to be like 110 to 112. Yeah, there are definitely going to be some Pearsall truthers that are just like, nope, not interested.
Yeah, you might be able to get him for that 10 to 12, but it's just funny. Like that's where my mind goes, and like, it's like, why would I buy the player X when I could buy player Y, who's just done so much better, is such a better bet. And again, you need Ricky Pearsall's and Josh Downs and Reeds and stuff like that too. But my mind is always like I'm trying to get the cheapest player of a profile, and Ricky Pearsall is not that right now this offseason, so it's been hard. But if he goes down in value because of these injuries and offseason whatever, now I'm going to become intrigued if his price corrects. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I definitely appreciate your points on this. I think they're legitimate, but I also think that it doesn't always have to be about dynasty value. I mean, of course that's important, and we want to like play the market.
Oh, of course.
Sometimes it's just okay to think, you know what? I think this is a really good player. I think he's going to score a lot of points this year. And regardless of whether the market sees the value in that or not, like this guy could really benefit my roster and help me win a championship. So I'm still willing to possibly buy somebody like that, even if I think like, the market's not going to fully respect it as much as they should.
Yeah. I mean, and we got our favorites of that, and like right now, my favorite, our favorite, like in the last 2 years, has been James Conner, who's just. Yeah, I mean, he's just like he's just the best buy ever. I have like 8 James Connors.
I mean, like, imagine if every time we talk about Conner, I'm like, he's not going to go up in dynasty value. It's like, why own any of them? So I mean, that's a great point. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, exactly. I appreciate that because I love these. These are my favorite players in dynasty. David Njoku and these tight end premiums and these Jonnu Smiths and Ingrams and stuff like that. So of course, I've considered that. It's just I don't know. I'm like
because I mean we want to play the market, and it's like if we can get a similar receiver that the market will respect more and increase their value more when they produce similar production as Pearsall, but like now like this player will also have more dynasty value, then of course I'd rather have that.
Or I mean here's kind of like maybe a more I'm trying to go with this whole like where's his value next year if he does what we project him to just median. Of course, he could be really he could be a wide receiver 1, whatever. It could happen, right? It's in the range of outcomes, and it is for a lot of other receivers. There's so many damn good receivers. But if he hits his median outcome, he might actually lose value, or just float around the same, right? And kind of like that early second range or same part in startups, whatever you want to go by. But maybe I'm trying to think of a good let's say it's like Darnell Mooney, because we were talking about him earlier. And it's like Darnell Mooney, he's 27 still, I think? What if he has a season like he did last year? That would be equivalent to what I'm saying Pearsall and his median outcome would do. I mean, what he was at, like 14, 15 points per game. And like no one cares about Mooney right now. And guess what? If he has another good season, what's stopping him from like he might be able to keep racking those up, right? Like, and just kind of be one of those solid veterans. And like you paid a fraction of the price, you got similar production, and you don't have all this, like, you didn't pay this artificial dynasty value. Now, of course, you're paying because Pearsall can go up, but people factor age in a big time. People give up on players when they're 23, 24 years old, and Pearsall is going to be 25 to start. So he's just like, he's a very interesting like case study for me of like, is like, how should this guy actually be valued? I just am having a hard time seeing his.
Yeah. Well, 2 points here. One, age matters, but it's not just the age of the human being. It's also how many years they've been in the NFL, because that also relates to upside, or at least perceived upside. So, I mean, it's hard to compare Mooney, who's been in the NFL for like 5 years or something like that, to Pearsall, who's like barely even been in the league for one, real true full season. And then the second point is with their value. I mean, we were just talking about Mooney earlier on the phone, and in the context of like, who's someone who you could get like pretty good production for that you could like buy for a second, or maybe, a little less than that, if you can get like a deal or something. And you brought up Darnell Mooney as a player like that. Well, it's like, does Pearsall cost that much more than that? I mean, yeah, I think in a lot of leagues, you get a Pearsall truther. It's going to take at least a late projected first. But, there could be some managers, I'm sure, that like you give them like a second and, Brian Robinson, or, something like that, or 2 seconds, or, a second, a third, and a fun throw-in player. So, I don't know if there's like a huge price difference. I mean, yeah, certainly like Pearsall definitely costs more, but like, it might not be like worlds apart.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, here's just kind of, I guess when I'm a good way of like how I'm always looking at these players and how I'm trying to build my own teams is like, when I'm trying to like allocate resources into like these like surefire, these really good bets, and I'm just not sure that a player like that, or again, not even to pick on Pearsall more, just like another receiver or player like him, I'm just not sure he's the best bet or best place I can allocate my resources to when you can get projected similar production at half the price or a third of the price or even less elsewhere. And then I can go use like that extra value or whatever, and I can just go put that in somewhere I want. I don't know. So yeah, that's. I'm interested to see if anyone's like watching. Like, what do you think about just all this in general? We're just talking about Pearsall, but it's not just about Pearsall. It's about it's about a ton of these players, and one that actually we brought Titan up earlier. He had mentioned something about like a trade that he made, and we reacted to it on the live stream, and I said. He traded down from Herbert, and basically just the trade, he traded down from Herbert to Tua, or sorry, it was Coda that did that with Titan Up in a trade. Okay. Down-tiered from Herbert to Tua, but he got Breece Hall in return, right? And that was the gist of the trade. That's what we're focusing on here. And I said, yeah, he basically just got a free Breece Hall, right? And of course, that's not true. Like, Justin Herbert's worth way more. But my whole point was, as long as you're willing to take on the risk or perceived risk with Tua's concussion and stuff like that, he scored the same amount of points per game, or if not higher than Herbert. I can't remember, but it's pretty much the exact same the last 2 seasons. So like, really, what's the difference? They're the same age and the same class and like a pick apart. What really is like the difference between them, other than just this like risk, this perceived risk? And it's true, there is some with Tua. But you get Breece Hall on top, And so...
Oh, yeah, I love that.
So Tighten Up... Sorry, I was just going to finish. Like, Tighten Up was like, thought it was ridiculous that I said that.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that's not the point. Like, I'm not saying that Tua is worth the same as Herbert, but like, the way I want to allocate my resources and value production versus dynasty value, like, I love that trade for Coda, because like, I don't care the difference between Herbert and Tua. There's such a big gap there. Give me the free Breece Hall, and I'll figure it out if things go bad with Tua.
Yeah, what you're saying is you don't care about the artificial dynasty value. You'll give that to someone else. You'll let them hold that ADV, and just give me the guy that doesn't have the value, but similar production, and then with the difference that I get on top in the form of Breece Hall in this case, I'll just use that player and enjoy that free production and that free extra player, as you could say. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. That's exactly how I'd want to play it as well. I mean, that's why I've been like, very like anti Patrick Mahomes over the past like couple years. Although, I think at some point, like, he's probably going to produce again. So, I mean, we could be getting to the point, at some time where we had to start considering buying him.
Yeah.
I think it's also an interesting conversation with CJ Stroud because he's been, like, so overvalued and had so much ADP. But, like, now his value has gone down at least a little bit. He still might be overvalued, but, like, now he gets these weapons. And we'll probably talk more about him later when we talk about one of Colossal's down tiers that we hinted at the beginning of the episode. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I like to play Dynasty that same exact way. And yeah, I like taking a free Breece Hall and I'll let someone else hold that artificial Dynasty value.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that to me just related, like, it's kind of like that. I'm using that process on these players. I'm talking about like Pearsall, whatever, but yeah, I mean, that's just how I'm looking at it. So I think it's interesting, though. Like, these young receivers in Dynasty, is their value right? Are we overvaluing certain profiles and these second-year breakouts and whatever, or rookies? I'd like to know other people's opinions as well.
Yeah, and I think related to that, and I feel like Colossal Tighten Up keeps coming up in conversation here. But I just thought of your trade where you traded away Malik Neighbors to Colossal, and you got Puka Nacua and 2 seconds, I believe. I don't know if you want to screen share and pull up that trade, give our viewers something to look at here. But yeah, I think that's that same concept. Like, because of course, like, Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud and someone that you would love to have at any Dynasty team. So, like, no shade against Malik Neighbors as a Dynasty asset, but there could be a little artificial Dynasty value there, and maybe at some point that becomes legitimate. I mean, based on the rookie season he had and just like what a prospect he was, if he takes any kind of like step forward in year 2.
He's the number one.
God. I mean, imagine the potential of that. So it's a thing to think about. So maybe Malik Neighbors is that, kind of a guy you'd make an exception for to pay to tier up to. But at the same time, you get Puka Nacua, who should have similar production. And
it might outscore him.
Seconds. So, like, I mean, I'm assuming that was your thinking there with that trade. Or did anything else go into it? I mean, I know, in fact, that you really didn't want to trade away Malik Neighbors, but it was a situation where you said Colossal, up in the offer, even when you were saying you weren't interested. And then at some point you just had to accept because it just got too good.
Well, yeah, this is, another good conversation about just, these receivers and value. I mean, you don't want to trade away Malik Neighbors when you own him. I mean, I love these ham receivers. He was like the wide receiver, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 basically until he got that concussion, or maybe he was even 1 at that point. I mean, with no one throwing him the ball, by the way. I mean, that is just
right
insane.
away. I mean, from jump as a rookie, like game 1. I mean, like, how many targets did he have? I mean,
actually, game 1 was against the Vikings. He had like a all right game, but the game 2,
week 2,
same thing,
okay.
Same thing, and then you just
basically from jump,
exactly, So it was basically from jump, and he just went nuts. So like. Yeah, you don't want to get rid of a player like that, and I'm just like not playing the value game when it comes to a guy like Malik Neighbors, because it's just like he's just so awesome. Like I'm not like holding him because he'll jump from receiver 3 or 4 to 1 next year. He'll still be worth the same thing. He might just be even harder to get. But man, when you talk about Puka Nacua, like okay, you're offering Puka in a second. That was like kind of like his original one of his original offers. You were like we'll just hang on to Malik, that's fine, but then he doubles what he's given us on top, 2 seconds. It's like, all right, like if I'm thinking on redraft, they're both young receivers. Like what are the odds? Like Puka can easily outscore like Neighbors. You know what I mean? Like they're probably going right beside each other in drafts. Right. So it's like I don't even know if there's like much of a difference between their. I mean, Puka's had now done it 2 years versus 1. It doesn't matter to me, whatever, right? So now I'm just thinking, all right, it's like the same thing. If I'm just like planning on holding these receivers and just using their production, I'm kind of just getting 2 free seconds on top. Of course, Neighbors could just like be the best receiver we've seen in the NFL, but Puka's like basically been doing that like per route, so it's tough to move off like Neighbors. But when you're given 2 seconds, it's like man, how am I going to decline that? Like.
And I do put some value in the fact that Puka's more proven. I mean, he's been awesome for like basically like 2 full seasons.
You could argue he's underpriced, like truly.
Yeah.
Because he's been producing like
Neighbors, I mean, Neighbors was really only good for what, like half a season. Then he kind of got a little banged up, and then I think he had like 1 spike week down the stretch. But
he's playing with DeVito, and like it's hard to put
I
anything.
mean, don't get me wrong. Like he had good excuses for why he kind of like faded down the stretch. There's no doubt in my mind he's a stud and he's gonna be awesome next season. And maybe he's the exception where you just like you end up regretting trading away Neighbors. But at the same time, Puka's more proven, and even if his ceiling isn't quite as high, yeah, you're probably gonna get very similar production. You could argue Puka's in a better situation. I mean, Rams receivers always seem to produce. Receivers tied to Matt Stafford always seem to produce. So yeah, I think that's a really good process. I mean, that's how I typically like to play. I love a good down tier, and I think that's a perfect example of it. Like, I would probably make that trade 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's why we made it. But I mean, there's always the path where it's like, Stafford like retire or whatever, and then Neighbors gets guy, and it's like you might just get blown out of the water on that one. I
mean, don't get me wrong. There's risk on both sides. Like you definitely don't feel good trading away Neighbors.
Of course,
there's definitely always gonna be a part of you thinking like, did I mess up? Get sending Neighbors away.
Yeah, I mean that's why we declined just for a second. But I mean he did double what he was adding on. And at that point, we need a quarterback in that league at some point, whether it's this year or not, with Rodgers and Dart as our QB2. It's like, hey, these seconds we can use these to get a quarterback if we need. So it just made too much sense in our ultimate goal, and we're not really taking a projected or a likely hit and value. So I thought that was a really interesting trade. And I did not foresee trading Neighbors at all.
Yeah.
Ever, really.
Yeah, we could go on for a while about what we've already been talking about, but I'm thinking we should probably jump into the topic that we put in the title of the stream, which is about beating Juggernauts.
Oh,
how
okay.
to beat Juggernauts. Other Juggernauts that are in your league. Maybe you're not a Juggernaut, but you're looking up at some of your league mates, some of the other teams in your league, and you're seeing some stacked rosters, or even if there's just like one. Because I mean, there's only going to be so many of them. I mean, there might be like some leagues that have, after like several years, like maybe the league has gotten a bit top heavy, and there might be like 2 or 3 teams that are just like loaded top to bottom. But even if it's just like one team in your league that's just like far and away like better than like everyone else, and you just look at their roster, it's just like, oh man, like what's even the point? Like, how am I even going to compete with this? Of course, we have to remind ourselves in these situations that the best team doesn't always win. I mean, think about situations where you felt where like you, meaning anyone, felt like you had the best team, whether it was in a dynasty league or a redraft league or whatever, and like how often like did you actually end up winning the championship? A lot of times you probably didn't. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. But let's jump into just some of the strategy around that. Like, what goes through your head, Blake? Like when you're in a league. And a lot of times it might be in a situation where like you took over an orphan and you don't have the greatest team, you're trying to like build it up, and maybe the league's been around a few years and you see a stacked team or two. How do you go about that? Like, what's your strategy when you're trying to go against a team like that? Like how can you compete with that? Well,
I think we've all been there. If you play at least in a couple of dynasty leagues, there's always that team, especially if you've like orphaned a team, there's like always that team that is just insane and has every superstar player, and there's like no way there's just like no way the other team sucks or like blows up, and it's pretty intimidating, right? But I mean, that's where you really got to lean into. You're playing the long game, right? You're not trying to, your initial reaction. Let's say you're coming out of a rebuild, whether you just did it or you're just taking a team over that's done it. I think a lot of people can be like really just focused on like building a better dynasty asset or better dynasty team asset wise, and like just completely I don't know, blow them out of the water like one way or another between they're completely buying into their upside, and they're drafting Caleb Williams and they're getting Pearsall and all these guys that have all this upside, and CJ Stroud, and they're just, if everything hits, I'm better than them, you know? Or they might go the other way and be buying all these like DJ Moores and Derrick Henrys and stuff like that, right? And they're just like, I'm building the best redraft roster, and like I'm gonna take them down that way. And like I really think, you know, and I mean, I don't think it's that crazy. You know, I think it's pretty like, you know, I don't think it's like I'm giving some crazy advice, but like living in that middle, right, is what you want to do. Because the best team doesn't only win. We talk about just wanting to compete, and here's the thing: if you build a competitive roster, and this is kind of where it comes back to that Pearson conversation we're just having about, you know, like I want to like figure out ways to get difference makers on my team, and especially if you're playing tight end premiums like these Njokus and these James Connors and stuff like that. But I want to continue to build these assets and like picks on top. And I want to compete that way, right? And then I can have those picks additionally. But like, I basically want to build the cheapest. It doesn't have to be the cheapest, but I want to build a cost-effective lineup.
Yeah.
And have a bunch on top, so that I'm not screwing myself over to compete in a losing battle, because like you're just never gonna catch up to this super team, no matter what you do. So you just gotta play into that variance and build a good team. And continue to keep trying like year over year, gaining value and giving yourself as much opportunity to do that, and then it'll ultimately catch them.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think you really have to look at it like a marathon. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to sprint past this team and beat them anytime soon. So you just have to accept that. Like you're not going to be able to create a starting lineup that's anywhere close to as good as one of these juggernauts, like if you've just like taken over an orphan in a league that's been around for a few years. So first is just like accepting that. So like don't try to go toe to toe with them right away. Like don't start making some like crazy deals or like, oh, I gotta like tier up because I gotta get like a stud to like match this team. Like even if you do that, which wouldn't be that wise, but even if you did, and okay, you get like a stud or two because you traded like a bunch of assets and try to like consolidate it. Well, you're still not going to have as many studs as the like Juggernaut team does. So that's just a losing battle. You're just going to be like a watered down version of like a Juggernaut, basically.
And then you're losing your assets because you're doing these crazy tier ups and.
Exactly. So really, I think the key is like, oddly enough, I don't think the strategy changes that much. I think you would approach it like a similar way that you would if it was a new Dynasty league.
Well, how we would do it, because everyone has
how we would do it. And the way we would do it is we like to kind of have our cake and eat it too, where, like you were saying, kind of like see if you can kind of build like a cheap starting lineup while also like, accumulating future firsts, accumulating players that could go up in value. So you're stashing these like players that could increase in value. You're stashing these future picks. You're doing the tier down trades to get these pieces. But at the same time, like, you got some cheap players in your starting lineup that still allow you to compete, at least be competitive each week. Maybe have a chance to sneak into the playoffs, and maybe you get hot at the right time. You never know. Like, weird things happen. But yeah, just focus on just gradually building up your team value more and more with each trade, with each day that goes by. And
here's where, like, this is my favorite thing to do, and potentially yours. But like, let's just say, you have this roster that's middling or whatever. Like you're trying to make your team better to either compete or for value. But that's my favorite thing, is how can you achieve both in the same trade, right? How can you get more dynasty value and score more points this year? That's always my goal in these trades. And of course, you're not gonna hit all these, but here's one I did this offseason that I think it could be a good, just like. A good example for. I had a team it was like my one, kind of like retooling team. I tried going in early, everyone got hurt. I had JSN on this team, okay, and now my team's ready to roll. This next year, I got these assets. Well, guess what? JSN's awesome, and I have like Ladd on this team, and I think Garrett Wilson so I have a bunch of these nice young receivers, but. None of those three receivers are like, I don't know. I'm not thinking of them as like league-winning receivers, right? And so like I'm trying to get like a potential upgrade. So I need some more depth on this team, right, to keep building for the future. So what I did is I took JSN, and I down tiered him, to Rashee Rice, and I got a 207 on top, right?
Yeah.
And so my philosophy on here, whether this works out or not, is I think Rashee Rice is probably projected to score as many points as JSN, if not potentially more. I mean, with what we saw, as long as he's healthy and doesn't get the suspension, yada yada. But I'm getting a 207 on top, and I can do whatever the hell I want with that. I could go buy James Conner, which again gets me more production, or I could keep tiering that back and keep playing the value game. So anyways, if Rashee Rice outscores JSN this year, he's probably worth more in Dynasty. And then all of a sudden I had that 207 for free, and now I've made more. In that scenario, I've gotten more valuable, and I got more points.
Oh yeah, and I think I mean, you could buy a James Conner with it, maybe if you have like a hole at RB2 and he just fits in perfectly, or if you don't need to fill in that hole, but you still want to invest in running back maybe, or maybe you just draft like Tootin or Scatabo,
exactly,
and that player has a chance to not only produce as a rookie, but then if they do, they're going to shoot up in value, and then now you have a more valuable asset that you can then like sell, and then you can like down tier from Scatabo to some buy low running back plus like a pick on top or whatever. So, and then you just kind of keep rush and dolling that value, as we like to say. So, I'm totally with you there. But yeah, I think basically, you just kind of approach it the same way as that we would approach like a new Dynasty league. Build up that value, just keep building it up, like doing the sneaky tier trades. Try to gain more value any way you can. Get extra picks on top. Make those leverage deals, as Scott Connor would say, where you're getting like more pieces back than you're trading away. Do the Russian doll thing, and then before you know it, I mean, if you do this well, you eventually will just build up this like war chest of value, and you'll have all these like great assets and picks and players that you won't even know what to do with everything. And then at that point, now you can start making those luxury trades, as I call them, where like now you can basically be on the other side and doing like tier up trades, and okay, I'm going to give these like 3 pieces for Justin Jefferson, or whatever, these 3 pieces for Malik Neighbors, or whatever you want. And you
could like reasonably overpay if need be, because you've built up so much. Maybe you got to that point where you you've done this in a couple leagues where you just had far and away more value than any other team. So it's like I'm just building the roster I want, and I'm not screwing myself over because I have all this future picks still, but I'm just getting deals done.
And you got to do something with it. I mean, it doesn't help to have like a loaded bench full of like all these like awesome players that you can't even like start every week, and you have like all these future picks where like you could never even like have the roster room to like make all these picks. So it's like you might as well consolidate them and just buy yourself some studs. And wasn't that the point? Like you wanted to create your own juggernaut, and maybe by then that juggernaut that you viewed at the start of this process, maybe they got a bit complacent, and maybe they didn't like really do a whole lot, and maybe their players started getting older, and some of them started losing a little value, and all of a sudden like their team isn't looking as hot anymore, and you're that team that's like right on the precipice there, and all you got to do is like make a few tier up trades, and like boom, all of a sudden you're surpassing them, and after a couple of years or however long it takes. But I mean, I think that's basically the approach that I would take, and it sounds like you're on exactly the same page there.
Yeah, exactly. The key is like, if you're making these good process deals, you're not gonna hit 100%, of course, but if you're making these good process deals, you're gonna continue to gain value. And the best part is a lot of these process deals I'm talking about, you're actually getting picks back, and maybe I'll give like kind of more of a specific example as well of just like one of my favorite ways to like gain value while maintaining that production. And it's just like betting against other managers, and like just like using your eyes and just like looking at, okay, hey, this guy's traded his first away 3 years in a row. He hasn't traded away his future first yet, and I'm looking at his team, and he doesn't have any depth. He's missing a third quarterback, so he could be in a tight situation. And okay, if I gotta like almost overpay, I'm not gonna say overpay, but like I don't think this guy's a playoff team. In fact, I think he could be like an early first. I'm willing to pay like just a little bit more than that what he thinks his late first is, because these managers are always thinking they're a contender, trading away their first, and I'm willing to like bet against a manager like that, and like you'll luck into like a 102 or whatever it is. And sometimes you get to do this, and you're in the rookie draft, this year, and okay, I trade away my 111. And I'm getting this guy's first, 1 for 1. I'm not even getting any leverage on top. But I'm going, all right, this is the early first next year. It's just like, just try it. Like, people don't realize, or people are just not realistic about their teams. Like, a lot of people. So, if you can just kind of look ahead, in a year in advance, it's really easy to figure out who these frauds are. With their teams, right? And so you can bet against them, or you can kind of implement into a trade. Let's just say you owned a Jonathan Taylor right now, and hey, trade away Jonathan Taylor would really kill your team. It's similar to the Rashee Rice one I just said. Yeah. But you go from Jonathan Taylor down to my boy James Conner, and you get a first on top. That's probably a pretty realistic trade.
Oh, yeah, you could do that.
And maybe you gotta give. Let's just pretend you gotta give a third up. It doesn't matter. Whatever you gotta give, you give up a Marvin Mims up or something in that deal too. Whatever, your boy. And
I like it for someone else.
Yeah, but exactly. So, but you give that up, the key of it is, okay, you get the James Conner rental to replace Jonathan Taylor, and you just cashed out a top 6 first, or maybe you even get a little lucky, and it's the 108. But guess what? That ends up being the most valuable piece in the deal come next year, anyways. And you got that James Conner production that either was close to Jonathan Taylor or slightly outproduced or underproduced him. So that's just always how I'm really looking to make moves, and just another specific example for anyone listening.
Yeah. I mean, although that is... normally when you down tier, you don't want to go too far. So that's an interesting one, to go down to James Conner. But it kind of works because, Conner, there's just such a big gap between his production and his dynasty value that, that's one you could actually justify. Yeah, in most cases, you don't want to down tier that far in terms of down the dynasty rankings, because more often than not, you'll get yourself in trouble. So there's some nuance there, but
and that's why I use those, because Jonathan Taylor's going to be turning 27, and and James Conner's just this guy that can legitimately outproduce. I would not be surprised if he is as good as JT. You can't do this with every player. But, of course, James Conner's always going to be a good candidate, or a tight end. If you did with Laporta, and especially you're a tight end premium, then you're going down to Njoku or something and getting a first on top. That's a no-brainer.
Do you think there are managers that would actually...
there are out there. I don't know if it's in our leagues, but there's 100%, man, just in general.
I feel in our league, it would have to be Dallas Goedert in a first, and even that, it might not be the easiest thing in the world, but I think that's a little more realistic. But in a casual league, maybe you could get Njoku in a first. Yeah,
exactly. Is it a tight end premium is the key on that one, because you don't need to score touchdowns to
exactly.
But random stat drop here, by the way, because I was doing this when the start 2 PPR startups. David Njoku, so you only have to remove 3 games because he didn't play 50% of snaps or more in only 3 games, which is kind of a surprise. Oh no, because he would have just been injured in the other games. These are the ones that he dressed up for, didn't get to 50%. It was 3 games in the last 2 years. Okay. So you remove those, and actually one of those even was a good game. He is at 22 points per game. Actually, it was more. I think it was 22.9 points per game.
Okay.
In I think it was a 19 game sample in a 2 PPR. It was a 19 game sample. So that would kill Jefferson. That would be just on. Well, actually, over both years, it would probably be right on pace with Justin Jefferson, production wise. Of course, the injuries and everything goes into it as well, but just a stat drop for these tight ends in 2 PPR. I'm sure Jonnu Smith would be a similar thing just last year. Nuts.
And by 2 PPR, we mean a tight end premium of 1.0. So tight ends are getting 2 points per catch. Njoku is awesome in a format like that. Yeah, so is Jonnu. Yeah. So is Evan Ingram. It's always those 3 guys with us.
Yeah,
that's the holy trinity of value tight end premium.
Yeah,
Tight end.
the most underpriced like producers, and this has been a theme. But like, if you look at basically like at least my list of favorite players in Dynasty, and now all of a sudden CMC's became one. Well, what do all these guys have in common? They're getting knocked, big time because of injury history, which is fair because that can stick, but sometimes it doesn't. I remember when Austin Eckler was like the most injury prone running back, his first couple seasons, he just couldn't stay healthy. And then he went on to be the RB1, whatever, 2 years in a row and really good before that. So it just doesn't always stick with these players. And I'm willing to buy the discount because it's already baked in, and oftentimes it's overpriced in. And sorry, I was gonna add one other thing, just a little like philosophy thing for me. But like, guess what? It's not the worst thing if these guys are hurt. If you lose them for like the entire year, that's one thing. But let's just say you lose them randomly 2 weeks or a 4-game IR stint. Well, guess what? Okay, yeah, if they get injured in the game, it sucks if it's at the beginning of the game. That's unlucky. But what if it's like one of those ones where they kind of play through it, or they still give you a good week? Well, guess what? You know not to start them the next week. Like it's not like you have nothing on your bench, so like you could still replace these players, or you might even have their handcuff, and you could put it in. So it's not like you're actually getting killed by these injuries.
Right.
But you're getting.
As long as they're producing a lot of fantasy points when they're actually healthy, active in the game, and then thus you're putting them in your starting lineup, like that's what really matters. And
that's probably the best way you can describe like my targets for these. I don't know, for these dynasty rosters is I'm just looking for these guys who get hurt a lot and like, but are awesome when on the field.
Yeah.
That's been true.
And I know you also like to buy studs like when they're injured during season, especially if you have like a rebuilding team. It's like, Justin Jefferson's going to be out for a month. Like, okay, how can I, get him off that manager? So, I'm totally with you there. Do you want to look at Colossal Titan Up's recent tear down trades, or is there anything else you wanted to talk about before then?
No, I guess we're transitioning here though, but an interesting thing is, I mean, that's a good part about having a little bit of depth on your dynasty teams though, is you can take advantage of when these players get hurt. I did it with DJ Moore in a first, late projected first last year when Nico Collins went down. And it was like right after he went down, that manager didn't have depth. DJ Moore just came off a really good game. And, I bought Nico Collins low, but I had depth to replace it. And so, I mean, that's just a big, just in general, like if you have just a little bit of depth on your team, you can in those extra draft picks, you really can take advantage of these in-season injuries, and that's one of my favorite things to at least try to do. Doesn't always work.
Here, I have screenshots of the trade. You want me to just send those to you like on DM on Sleeper?
I can pull it up here, just like by typing the player name and I think.
Oh, okay. It might look better.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just send you the message then.
All right. Just sent one.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Oh shoot, it doesn't look very good actually, but maybe I can.
Okay.
Okay, wait, here we go. Maybe I can do this.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, this was a big one. So this is the break room Colossal Titan Ups trade.
Yeah, so the format of this league is 12 teams, start 11, Superflex, PPR, and it's a tight end premium of 1.0, so tight ends get a total of 2 PPR. This is the first year of the league.
Yes, we just did our startup a couple months ago now. I've seen this trade before, but I don't know if I like really, try to break it down in my head.
Right.
This is a pretty loaded one here. What are your thoughts on this, just to start?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I looked at this one really closely either. I mean, Colossal makes like a lot of deals, and so like I've almost kind of like gone numb to it. Like, him and Sebastian, it's like they make all these like crazy like blockbuster deals, and it's just like, like the impact of it has almost sort of gotten lost.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's when you and Seb made that deal. And actually he had asked me what I thought about it. And maybe you did as well, but I was just like, I don't know. I am not even sure what I'm looking at. I was like, you guys just changed lineups. So I was like, I hope you liked his lineup because you now own his lineup. I hope you didn't like. I hope you didn't like your own lineup because then you just gave it to him. Basically, like all your best players, and whatever. So, I mean, what I will say about these deals in general is like, I don't like these deals in general because no matter what you do and how good you think your side is. Well, maybe the strategy is hopefully you get more players in it because there's so many damn good players in here. Like, someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get the concussion narrative and whatever. Like, and torn ACL, it's just... There's too much variance in a trade like this that, like... There just can't be too much calculation. There can be, but whether that's going to work out or not, there's just too many players involved. I am not a big fan of these deals. I'd rather deal in smaller... multiple trades.
Yeah, I think it's better to generally do smaller deals because I feel like with bigger deals, like things can kind of just get lost where you maybe could have gotten better value if you had like parsed it out and like done these deals separately, even if it's with the same manager.
That's a really good point.
More specific about this is what this player is worth.
Yeah.
But when you're just like chucking in all these players, like maybe the other manager doesn't even like value one of the players that you're giving away, and it's like it just as easily could have been someone else that you value a lot less, but like but because you had just like offered this and they like the other parts of the deal, they just hit accept. But like if you would really like parse it out, like, oh wait, like you like Jaden Reed as much as Josh Downs. Oh well, I'm much higher on Josh Downs. If I had known that, I just would have given you Jaden Reed and I would have had a wide receiver that I'm much higher on, so if that makes sense, that's kind of what I feel is like kind of one of the risks of just making
that's a great point. That's why I don't do these trades like really ever. Is that especially if you're selling like, for example, if you had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, don't sell them together. Because I just promise you're not gonna get whatever the return is if you just sold them individually. And
I think there are some exceptions where it makes sense to like, pile on some players and, I mean, I'm guilty because like, I mean, we alluded to it. I mean, I just made that crazy blockbuster trade with Sebastian and maybe we can even pull it up after if anyone wants to see what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, we practically like traded like, like 2/3 of our starting lineups to each other. And it's just like, hey, I'll just keep my bench. But yeah, I like Sebastian's starting lineup. So I mean, it was practically like that. But in any case, looking at this trade here, I mean, yeah, like I when I'm breaking down trades, I like to kind of see like, okay, what can I cancel out first, kind of simplify the deal. I mean, the first thing that sticks out is like Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua. Of course, I'd rather have Justin Jefferson, but like I'm just gonna call that like similar enough that I'm just gonna kind of
that it's not. Yeah, it's not like there's not like this like big difference. It's like it's the 2 seconds. Like you might actually accept that Jefferson to Nacua kind of thing. And like that Malik deal, and it's just not a big enough of a difference. I agree with that. Yeah, and Justin Herbert and Caleb Williams would be another one.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I'll cancel out where it's like if there's another part of the deal where it's like, oh well, now Colossal has the slight edge, so whatever. But that's close enough that I can basically watch that part of the deal. And then my eye goes to like the 2 pairs of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So Colossal's getting Stroud and Caleb Williams, whereas Pally is getting Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. I mean, Joe Burrow, of course, is like, easily like the best quarterback of all these.
Yeah.
And he just consistently, year after year, produces like elite numbers, even though in theory he shouldn't because like he doesn't really get much in the way of rushing stats.
And no other quarterback is even capable of doing what he's doing. Like he's basically this like massive outlier that probably will like. It might not be this season because their defense sucks, but exactly like he just somehow keeps doing it, and therefore he's this far better than any other quarterback in this deal.
Like, I mean, of course, like Burrow's bound to have like one off season here or there, but for the most part, like I think more often than not, like he's gonna just keep like being the outlier and producing. So I love Burrow. So that's definitely like the best quarterback in the bunch. Who do you think is the second best? Would it be Caleb or
I believe it's Caleb personally. It wasn't a great rookie season, but I've almost been considering like how do I get a Caleb because I don't have any of them. But man, he ran for a lot of yards. Like he does have rushing upside. So shockingly enough, his value is pretty reasonable. That's why he's like slightly the better quarterback in this deal for value wise. But I mean, I really can see him jumping, and I try to be a realist about these quarterbacks of like what actually ends up happening. I mean, he's my second ranked quarterback here. Like I would take him easily over
I would
Herbert.
agree with you. Then I guess like Herbert would be third, and like Stroud would be fourth.
But those,
So basically, Colossal is getting like the worst quarterback. Like he's down tiering both quarterbacks because he's going from Burrow to Caleb Williams.
I see.
He's going from Justin Herbert to Stroud. Now Herbert to Stroud, I mean, I don't know if there's that much difference there. So okay, let's call that one a wash.
Yeah.
Okay, but you are down tiering from Burrow to Caleb Williams, but at least Caleb Williams has the upside, but Burrow is just like the proven bona fide stud.
Yes.
So that's probably like the biggest down tier just because we haven't seen Caleb Williams do it yet. So like that would be the biggest risk is you're just like, it's not like going from Jefferson to Puka where like, hey, like they're both studs, they're both proven. Okay, maybe you'd want Jefferson a little more. But Burrow to Caleb Williams, even though Caleb Williams could in theory become, what Burrow is, I mean, he's still got to do it and do it like over a consistent amount of time to even like approach that kind of asset that you'd feel good about owning like year after year.
What's fun about him, he has true 101 potential though, like Caleb in his range of outcomes, where like Herbert and Stroud just don't have that. It's just not, I know Stroud technically like kind of had it, but that was just a complete mispricing.
I do think if you're going to down tier, like Caleb Williams is at least a good guy to do it with because like he could really, really rise in value.
Caleb next year, like, it sounds great. He could be higher than Burrow, and it would be because pocket passers, like unless Burrow keeps being the outlier, which it seems like he is, like Caleb Williams just could have a really good season and Burrow has a slightly disappointing one and he just jumps him. It is good.
He could jump him in dynasty value, but he wouldn't necessarily jump him in terms of like which quarterback I would rather have in my roster trying to win a championship.
Sure, that's where it gets tough because it's like because then it's like, okay, you still win the bet because you could just like go down to like Burrow and get a plus, but it's I get what you're saying.
Then at that point, can you go back to the manager? Hey, I want Burrow back, but I need a plus on top, and I'll give you.
But it is a year later though, and you tend to forget that.
Or maybe it's not Burrow, but maybe it's
someone else.
Like Mahomes or someone else.
Yeah, or maybe it's Lamar or something because he goes up so high and whatever.
Josh Allen, who knows?
Exactly. But so I do like that down tier though, to go from Burrow, who is defying all odds of like historic pocket passing numbers, where you get like a guy with rushing upside and Caleb and really good.
Here's the cautionary tale of thinking that way. C.J. Stroud a year ago. Like, isn't that
but
I know he wasn't a rushing quarterback, so I guess that's the big difference. So I understand
that would be the cautionary tale against Burrow, even though we've seen a bunch of years. But like literally, like they're just, he's the only one other than maybe like Tom Brady, like and Aaron Rodgers that's just been able to produce this. So like that's why this I think this Caleb Williams down tier is really sneaky. It's really hard to get off Joe Burrow anyways in trades because people know he doesn't have those legs. And it's,
but like the way you say that, it's almost as if like you want to get off Burrow. Like if I have Burrow, I don't want to get off.
No, I'm not saying you want to, but here's the thing: you can't get off Burrow. You cannot get off Burrow for.
I'm happy I can.
No. I'm just saying, like in a trade like this, you're never getting credit for Burrow anyways. So it's not that I want to, but you can't. So in this trade, this is what's interesting. You're getting off Burrow to Caleb, which is like, I mean, what would you get? You're not getting a first to do that in a league if you're just trying to do that trade, right? You might get that 2 staggered seconds deal maybe, or you might get a second on top. But this is where it starts to get interesting, right? Let's just cross out Stroud and Herbert. They go damn near the same spot in every startup, right? Okay, Jefferson to Puka. Like, I'm just thinking realistically, if I was a Jefferson owner and I went down to Puka, how much are you getting on top? Like a second? You might get those 2 seconds deal.
I think it's like kind of going from like Puka neighbors like you did.
You might get those 2 seconds, but I don't think every owner does that. So you call it a second and a third.
Call it a second.
Okay, I would say call it a second and a third just for that middle, but yes, a second and whatever. So let's start doing math, right? Let's just say you can get a second and a third from Burrow to Caleb, a second and a third from Jefferson to Puka. I think that's like pretty reasonable. You might get that done, you might not. Herbert and Stroud are down tier. Well, let's do the math now, right? If you were to try to do those down tiers separately, do 2 seconds and 2 thirds equal JSN. So he just printed out a JSN for 2 seconds, 2/3.
Well, yeah, that's
Value-wise.
what I was getting to, is like, you kind of get the free JSN here because
Yeah.
Colossal's getting 4 pieces on his side. He gives up 3. Of course, a lot of the better pieces are on the side getting 3, but yeah, you do kind of get a free JSN.
Yeah, it's extreme discount JSN.
At least a discounted JSN. Yeah, not completely
That-
free, obviously.
That's like what 40% of his price, because that doesn't necessarily equal a first, 2 seconds, or 2/3. It may get close, but
Yeah, but I mean, I think the risk of the deal is like, what if Caleb Williams like just sucks, and then you just end up with some like crappy quarterback that like washes out of the NFL, and it's like, oh crap, like I had Joe Burrow and I just lost that. Now I just have this like huge hole at QB. Now that sounds crazy because like, you know, Caleb Williams is like, you know, the chosen one, and he's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And he was okay as a rookie. You know, he had some flashes, and certainly is in a much better situation now with Ben Johnson and all the weapons he has now. So like in theory, like he should do amazing. But like I also thought the same thing about Stroud last season.
Yeah.
You know, oh man, he's getting Stephon Diggs, and you know, he's got Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and you know, he's going into his second year. He's going to take that step forward. Like he's going to be amazing. Nope. So,
but here's the key. You know, here's the key though, because that is all true. But here's the key. So Stroud, and just an example I used, I mean, he got you know, for what it's worth, keep Trey Cup, #1 quarterback for like a day, but he was going top 3 in just about every startup. Well, look where Caleb Williams is going. He's going like the mid, but like back of the second, right? I mean, that's a huge gap. That is a massive gap. And so the point is like Caleb, I mean, it's really, there's a lot of room for him to grow. Where like, yeah, Stroud, whatever, but like Burrow, he's at his max, and there's a lot of room for him to go down technically, though he's a very safe asset just overall. I agree on that. But Caleb really could close that gap, and even if he's like not that amazing, like if he just needs to be whatever, put up a QB 12, 11 performance and show some flashes at the end, and then all of a sudden it's just like, you know, whatever, wheels up. I mean, we actually saw this exact outcome from Lawrence, who had that awful first year, and guess what? He ended that second year really strong, and he shot up to like the 6th or 5th or 6th overall player in Dynasty that year, and then he ended up actually be doing basically what you're suggesting with Caleb, and kind of just stinking the rest of the time until we're here now. So exactly, it's a world where like what you're saying could happen, but you just get the flash in the window, and then all of a sudden Caleb's jump Burrow, and but it doesn't mean he's gonna stay that way. So he could be like Stroud in that way. I guess that's kind of like the interesting thing of how I'm looking at this, is there's gonna be a lot of windows to win this trade if you're a Colossal Titan up, whereas if you're Pally, there's going to be a lot of ways to lose this deal. Off an injury, you're just losing a JSN.
Yeah, because like, yeah, if Caleb Williams like surpasses Burrow in value, even if you don't totally believe it, but then you like trade off a Caleb Williams into like someone you do believe in more and get a plus on top, so like that would be the kind of counter argument there. But regardless, if he surpasses Burrow in value, and then like if Puka just basically produces similarly to Justin Jefferson, and then, you know, maybe a year from now, like they're kind of in the same like tier of value.
I mean, they pretty much are right now. Like they're
pretty much practically are already.
Yeah.
And then like Stroud and Herbert.
But like, not to mention, there's still room for JSN and Stroud to grow because they fell enough, right? And Stroud has these weapons now, like we were kind of alluding to earlier. I mean,
and if Stroud comes out and just like, you know, with these weapons, maybe the offensive line plays a little better. Maybe they make some adjustments from last year. If he just comes out and just has like this like much improved year 3, like he could really skyrocket in value. So I do think there are a lot of opportunities for Colossal to win this deal. And I like that he's getting the extra asset, and you know, it's not just a throw-in. I mean, it's Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, that's a pretty nice guy to just get that extra piece.
Which, by the way, he just turned into Rome in a first, so he's already kind of liquidated that.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. So if you replace JSN now with Rome Odunze and a 26 first, I think I like it even better than I do looking at it now. So. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Like, I kind of thought I was going to say I like Pally's side bet a little bit, but you are making a pretty good case for Colossal
Yeah.
here.
Well, there's different ways to look at it. That's kind of just how I'm looking at it. But here's the thing. If I own Burrow and Jefferson and Herbert, I might just tell them, I'm just keeping who I got. Like, that's the funny part because, I mean, especially Burrow and Jefferson, they're just so damn good, you know.
Oh, I know. It's hard to give up those
Yeah.
guys.
Like, if he came to me with this, I might be like, yeah, you got to throw it a little more if I'm going to come off these guys. Or okay, let's talk a Herbert deal. But you know, you're not getting these other guys, whatever it is. So that's the thing. I don't necessarily think it's like a wrong trade by Pally, or was it? But by Pally at all.
Yeah, I think it's fair for both sides.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair deal. And the interesting, I'll give the edge to tighten up if we're saying what side it just sit in the middle here. I don't have to worry about what side's mine. I think his side's just gonna it's gonna age better if he acts on it properly. Because like he did, he flipped JSN. But there's going to be much more room to grow, even if it's just like a legitimate 1 week window. Again, we always think like, oh yeah, that guy lost value, but like it's not just like a steady line down. There's these spikes and these peaks and valleys, and there's a lot of room to grow for the players on his side. So
yeah, I think you make a great case there, and yeah, I think I'm proud. Here's why I think I'm okay with Colossal making this deal. I know just from DMing with Colossal, like before we went live here, we were kind of talking about our philosophies a bit, and it's, you know, from what Colossal says, it sounds like he likes to build Dynasty teams similarly to how we do. Basically, like exactly what we were discussing earlier in terms of like how to build up a Dynasty team in like year one of a Dynasty league, you know, right after the startup, and how that's a similar strategy to like if you took over an orphan and you're trying to compete with the Juggernaut. It's basically like build up value while still trying to field like a competitive roster, kind of have your cake and eat it too. And so I think that's what Colossal's doing here. So he's making some bets on some young players with a lot of upside that could really increase in value. He's getting the extra piece in the form of JSN. So I do think it's definitely a good process. Maybe what's giving me hesitation is just like how I got burned trading for CJ Stroud last year. But weirdly, it's also an argument to like get off Burrow and like buy a mobile Russian quarterback, Caleb Williams. So it's a really interesting discussion. It's a really interesting trade. So yeah, I definitely think it's fair for both sides. Like if I'm more like looking to compete and win the championship this year, yeah, I'll take the side with Burrow and Jefferson. But if I'm just looking at it as in terms of like, hey, like I want to build my Dynasty team in a certain way and like a certain process in year one of a league, I do think it's a pretty solid trade for Colossal. So yeah, I don't want to hedge on it. But I do really think it's fair and make sense for both sides.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think overall, pretty damn fair.
It's a good deal.
Deal.
I think well done by both managers.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then here's the other kind of part of the trade. Also, by the way, good to see Seb in here. Said he just got in here a few minutes ago, and we'll probably bring up a trade of his with you there in a moment.
Oh yeah, we gotta do that now.
Yeah. Send that picture, by the way, when you get a chance here, and then I'll open it and we'll go over that. But so this is an interesting deal, and you know what's funny? I mean, this is where you really test like the Dynasty. I don't know, like my Dynasty theory or whatever, because I'm really fading Roma Odunze going into year two. And here's the thing, again, it's kind of like I was just mentioning. There's these peaks and valleys. When I say I'm fading Ricky Pearsall and Odunze and these players, it doesn't mean I'm just like, no, I'll never touch them. But it's like I'm just talking like going from this offseason to week one, unless something changes, injury or whatever, prices fluctuate, I'm just out at this current price. But Roma Odunze, in general, is undoubtedly still a good bet, a good player I want on my teams. Right? So he's getting them back, tighten up, trades away JSN, gets Odunze in that first. In my mind, personally, immediately goes to like, now what can I turn Odunze into? Can I turn that into like a first? And here's the thing, can I turn that into a first in like Juwan Jennings or something like that? And then it's like, okay, now I'm getting a player that's producing more than Odunze. And I'm getting a second first in this JSN deal. That's where my mind goes. So like, I like the deal just in general because he gets, well, he traded for the 112, 2026, which isn't good.
Right,
but but he gets a first, and then and then he gets Odunze. So I think this is like a trade that I like, and you were mentioning something the other day, Dan, about like tearing down, and it was like, here's the thing, it was for a really strong manager's team, which I don't know whether we're a strong tender or not, that has nothing to do with this, but anytime you're getting a first, regardless if the manager's team is strong or not, you're probably going to win the deal if you're getting like if you're sending away a talented receiver for another really talented receiver,
right?
And you're getting you're going to win that deal like probably like 9 times out of 10. And here's the thing, again, you might not win it like if we just like jump 3 years ahead. You might actually just like be rinsed. But if you do the right thing with that Rome Odunze now or week 5, like you're gonna win that deal. So I like this deal.
It's not like you have to hold. It's not like you have to hold Odunze from now until the end of his career. Like you're gonna have windows to like sell him and then down tier, and I mean there are all kinds of things you can do with that, and there are all kinds of things you can do with that first, and then So I mean, this trade I have no hesitation on. I absolutely love Klopp's side on this. I mean, this is exactly like the kind of down tier trades that I love to make personally.
Yeah.
Let me just bet on a talented second, wide receiver entering his second season who disappointed a little bit in his rookie season, so that's why his value's down a little bit. I can buy him low. Still believe in the prospect. Still think it's a pretty good situation, even though they brought in some other weapons. And you get the first on top, even if it ends up being the 112. But hey, it has a shot of being better than that. You never know.
No, I mean that's like, I was joking with the 112, but it's just like a first. Everyone's competing in this league, so I mean that's like a true random first.
You have a great team, but
it doesn't. It doesn't even
maybe it ends up being like the 110, the 109. I mean,
it might be the 106 or 5 because
sure.
I mean, again, you've seen my Greaseball team. If that can be the 106, I mean, literally anything can. So I was just joking about the.
That's my point. Is that like, it's likely going to be like a late first, but like there's a reasonable chance that it's a mid first. There's a small chance that it's an early first, and like altogether, like that's some nice upside there.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. So I mean, even if I'm not like too hot on Odunze, you could do a lot of things with Rome Odunze if you were to trade him, or you could do the bet on him, and maybe he's worth more than JSN because crazy stuff happens by this time next year. So I mean, really, I think it's like, but anytime you get like two good and valuable assets, and if you're just getting the first on top, as long as it's not like Malik Neighbors level kind of thing, you're probably winning the trade just in general.
Yeah, and also, I mean, imagine like what if Odunze just has this like crazy breakout season and like boom, all of a sudden he's worth more than JSN. Maybe JSN just sort of like just has like a whole.
Maybe he gets hurt or just is mid. I mean, look what just happened to Ayuk. I mean, he was really valuable last year, sucked, and then got torn his ACL. No one cares about him now, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't know that like JSN is definitely better than Odunze or is definitely going to outproduce him. Like it could go the other way, and then you're on the side with the first. So
exactly,
I love that deal.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's. It's still a fair deal. This is again another fair deal. JSN's worth roughly like 2 firsts. He's getting 2 firsts in return for JSN and whatever. It's pretty close. I don't know how much you want to dive into that. Like it's a fair deal, and I don't even really like Rome Odunze as a bet right now, but I still really like getting them back in this deal. It makes so much sense.
And I love the idea about like get like Juwan Jennings in a first or something like that, or like Calvin Ridley in a first, something along those lines. Like I love that.
Yeah, exactly. So
and that's a great example of like the Russian doll. You open up the doll and there's another one inside it. And there's another one inside that. For anyone that doesn't know like what the heck we're talking about with that metaphor there, but you kind of get the idea. It's just like keep multiplying assets.
Yeah, if you could get Calvin Ridley in a first, by the way, like I don't know who owns Ridley in this league. I mean that's a great suggestion as well because like truly like Ridley, I mean probably projection wise is gonna outscore Odunze this year unless it's a big time breakout. I would say projection wise, like if we're looking at underdog or something right now, they're gonna be neck and neck. There might be a what's it called because Ridley's the number one undoubtedly on his team. But then here's the thing too. This is what I love as well. The first you get if you target or maybe the Ridley owner or whatever player you trade for, if he just can't see, maybe how weak his team is, and he doesn't realize, well, you might have a bet that's like
early first.
And here's the thing. Odunze could turn into next JSN, and you still might win that deal because you just got a first that was more valuable than either of those guys. Like come next year. So like that's really what I like to do is like, I'm like, okay, how do I not lose this deal by making this like Ridley in a first? It's like, oh, look at that manager. Yeah, I mean, odds are that first there's like a 90% chance that first is going to be more valuable or at worst the same, and that's a really good I don't know, like way I like to look at things, and that's something Tighten Up gets another chance to do here. And maybe he thought that about my first.
Yeah, and one other idea, or one alternative. Of course, I love the suggestion about getting the first plus like a productive, maybe underpriced veteran wide receiver like a Calvin Ridley or a Juwan Jennings. Or if you want even more upside, although albeit with more risk, you could target like a young wide receiver with some upside, not just for production, but for like increasing in dynasty value. I mean, of course, like a guy that just comes to mind is like Marvin Mims, who, I own in this league. I think I actually got him from Colossal. But that's just an example. But someone like that where maybe you get Marvin Mims in a first.
Kyle Williams.
What's that?
Kyle Williams and Jack Besh and guys like that.
Someone like that. Although that's probably harder because Kyle Williams is a rookie and like someone like, just drafted him and is probably imagining that, he's this like Hall of Fame receiver and everything. But Marvin Mims is perfect because like he's shown flashes, but like 2 years in, he hasn't like proven to be a consistent receiver. So yeah, what if you get him plus a first? And what if Marvin Mims just like breaks out and is like the next like Jameson Williams, third year breakout, big explosive wide receiver. And then all of a sudden, boom, like now you have a receiver that's like worth like a late first, plus you got a first on top of that. So it's like now you're really cooking with gas. So yeah, if you're feeling a little risky and want even more upside, like you could turn Odunze into something along those lines. It doesn't have to be Marvin Mims specifically, but
yeah, whoever the guy you like as much as like a Marvin Mims or whatever is, then
yeah, like maybe I mean this is probably a little too ambitious, but like maybe like the owner is like down on Jaden Reed, although probably not because in this case it's Seb. But like pretend it's not a Packers fan or whatever, and someone's just sort of like down on Reed. I mean, can you imagine if you could turn Odunze into like Jaden Reed in a first? Like maybe you have to like kick in a third or something to get that done, but like that would be amazing. So
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, even if you gotta give something back. Yeah, I mean that's what I. And then there's another one. Reed can outscore Odunze, and then you get that first. So yeah, a lot of good.
So, yeah, I mean it's fun to think about. So yeah, I think there's a lot that Colossal can do. He's already done a great job of kind of doing the Russian doll thing, and he can even keep it going. So something to consider there.
All right, now we got to pull up Seb and yours.
Big blockbuster between me and Seb. Yeah, I mean, I can see how you would just look at this and be like, oh, geez, just like another like stupid, crazy blockbuster deal. And like I said, like it's easy to almost like go numb to them because like there've been so many of these in the break room. It's just kind of like, oh, ho hum, another blockbuster. And you kind of get the sense that like, hey, like are some of these people just like trading for the fun of it or whatever? And hey, like if that's your thing, like nothing wrong with that. Like Dynasty should be fun. So not trying to criticize that, but I do like to trade with purpose. In addition to having fun. And this was a trade that I made with purpose, even though I could see how you just look at it and assume it was just like something I did for kicks.
Yeah, so let's take a look at this trade here. So, I mean, if anyone's...
So do you want me to like kind of like, I don't know, do you want to like break it down before I share my process? I mean, I think I already probably...
I guess, yeah, I'll try to break down and then...
I kind of shared my process, but like...
Yeah. I'll try to break down for anyone listening or watching. And then... So basically, this is a huge deal. I've counted out. There's 5 players that matter in this deal on each side, and then there's a second and a third involved on opposite sides. So basically, Dan receives back. I'll try to order them in like most valuable to least.
Right.
Lamar Jackson, Ladd McConkey, George Pickens, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. So 2 veteran productive running backs, superstar quarterback, and 2 really good down receivers. And then he sends away to Seb. What do we got here? We got Bo Nix, Saquon Barkley, a chain, Rashee Rice, all kind of the same range, and then Goddard, who's kind of by far the least relevant of all those other 9 players.
With the tight end premium, getting like the 2 PPR, like he is kind of an interesting win now player to have.
Yeah, and then so also forgot to mention that the Bo Nix, Rice, and Barkley so on side that Dan's sending away as a second, and he receives a third back in the deal, both in 2026. So, I mean, when I was looking at this, I was trying to do the crossing out math, and just like it just didn't work because there's just not the side that you're sending away basically has 4 players all in the exact same range within 7 or 8 players. If we're doing a dynasty startup, in fact, our startup, these players probably all went within like 8 picks of each other, and there's four of them there. So these are all.
Which 4 are you talking about?
Barkley, a chain, Rice, and Nix. These guys are all sitting around that like mid-third to call it like mid-4th. Just like in any startup you do, they're going to be picked there basically every time. And then on your side that you receive back, you have Lamar Jackson, a top startup pick. Ladd McConkey, who's more valuable than right now, like at least in a startup, than any of the other players you gave up. So you get the 2 best players in the deal, but you give up the 4 third best to 6th best player.
Okay, yeah, right. I give away the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th best players in the deal.
Yeah, and then in return though, then you get the next 2 best players, which are these old veteran productive running backs that we like, Henry's. I don't know if I necessarily like Henry, though I just traded for him in a league, but everyone likes Derrick Henry for a productive team or as a producer. And then Goddard, who's a sneaky tight end in this format. Yeah, so it's a pretty crazy deal. Like if you're just listening, you probably have no idea what's going on. So hopefully you can see the screen right now.
Right.
But when I looked at this, the math, it's pretty fair. Like I don't know, it's just one of those ones where it's probably pretty fair right now. I don't even know what side I would even really prefer, but I actually do think I know what side I would prefer. But I'll give you my reason why, and it's going to be completely opposite of what your reason of the trade was.
Okay.
But my reason, I actually preferred Seb's when I was looking at it. Now you could say this about Lamar Jackson, that you get a huge tear off. But man, Barkley, a chain, Rice, Nix, those are some really, really good assets to trade off of and tear down. Where Henry and Kamara, you've kind of you're at that, you've in this trade you've already tiered down to those guys, which is awesome because you can just keep them and rock with them. But man, when you have Saquon Barkley and these really productive and really young players, it just feels like the sky is the limit with these players, what you can do in trades or just keep them on your team. Those guys, that side can truly, you have 4 players that can just win you the league on that side as well, which is the same about yours, but I don't know, they're all really young on that side, and who's the old? I guess Barkley is 28, but the other ones are all 24 and younger. And we're the ages and stuff. It's I don't know. It just looks more appealing to me, the side you're sending away just in general, because you have 4 guys worth what? Those guys are all worth 2 firsts, roughly. One might be worth a little more, a little less. Let's do a little bit of math here. Just I wanted just out of curiosity. So Lamar, he's worth 3 firsts. It's hard for really anyone to be worth more than 3 firsts, just in general. No one's ever gonna.
Honestly, I don't even think you get Lamar Jackson for 3 firsts. I think he's close.
That's what I mean. But no one's gonna trade him away for no one's gonna trade 4 actual firsts for him. They might, but it's in a start 11.
It might not be 4 firsts, but it might be 3 firsts and a player worth a first.
Here's actually a question for you, because I was thinking about this. This is something I was thinking about. Have you ever seen a deal like that actually go down, where there's 3 firsts and then a player actually I did. We saw Amon-Ra. You did a trade for Amon-Ra with 3 firsts in it. But I don't know if I've ever even seen a deal like that. Other than that, maybe. where you see the 3-for-1 or?
Yeah, I mean, I've traded for some Josh Allen shares this offseason, and I know in at least like 2 of them. I mean, of course, like in the league we co-managed together, like the main piece we gave up was Jamar Chase, so that was a different kind of deal. But in the other 2 leagues where I acquired Josh Allen, I mean, I definitely had to pay up for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like in one I gave up what, like, shoot, I'm trying to remember it offhand, but it was like Jalen Hurts and
It was like London.
Oh no, London, yeah.
Yeah, but then I guess this is like that bonus play, so it's a little like, I don't know, it's hard for me to gauge, or maybe like anyone listening, like just the value. Although you play in the league.
No, it's not the crazy tight end premium.
No, that was the big play bonus league that you were saying. Like, so like London didn't have much value.
Big play bonuses in it. Oh yeah, so that was part of the reason why like London didn't have quite as much value in that league, and like I did get back like Keon Coleman, who I don't love. But he's more suited to that scoring with the really big play bonuses. Yeah.
I'm just saying, just in general, like I haven't seen. Like, I just personally in my leagues, I just haven't seen. Like, I just never see these guys move. Like,
but think about that.
If they are, it's
Jalen Hurts is worth 3 firsts. London is worth at least 2 firsts. So that's like 5 firsts that I basically gave up.
But that is a deal that you made. Like, nah, I'm just saying, like, it's not someone that, like, you actually were the other example of the only other thing I've seen for 3 firsts. So it is a deal that you've made. But I'm just saying, in all my other Dynasty, I've never seen. We've seen deals where, like, someone might go from Bo Nix in a first to Allen or something like that, right? So it's like, okay, that equals like 3 or maybe a first and a second Bo Nix or something like that.
I don't even know if you could get that done, but I hear you. I hear you like the type.
Exactly. So like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know if it's even possible to be worth more than 3 firsts, honestly, in Dynasty. It's just, I mean, like, it's just like it's almost impossible to be worth more than 3 firsts.
Well, I think a lot of times, like, you don't see those players move because
no one's given up more than 3 firsts.
Exactly. So I guess that would be the criticism is. Like, okay, like Lamar Jackson, like I could argue, like, oh, well, I can always like down tier off of him, but like, how many people like actually are going to willing to pay like 4 firsts?
And that's what I'm getting at here is no one's willing to give up 4 firsts, and no one has that. No one can afford to do that. So I mean, that's what I'm saying is just like when I'm looking at any player and my favorite player and Chase and stuff like that, they're just worth 3 firsts because you're never going to get more than that. Like in like a realistic scenario where it's just like. No one even has the assets to give that up. It's just, it never happens. And when I've tried selling my big stars, like, no one's offering that up. You'll get lucky in a league or 2 or something like that, or once in a blue moon. But I'm just saying for But back to the point. Okay, you get 8 firsts. I'm just like, 8 firsts on the right side of the screen with the Barkley A-chain side. And then you got Goddard, who's worth a second in this format in a second. So that's 8 firsts, 2 seconds. What do we got on the left side? We'll just call Henry in a third a first. You got 3 firsts on Lamar, so that's 4. Lad McConkey's worth at least 2. So what would that be at? 6.
Well, I mean, yeah, Pickens is worth a first. I mean,
7. Yeah, and then
Kamara's like usually a late first, is he not?
No, I mean he's never getting traded for first, but he's an early second kind of guy. I mean he's like an early.
He's on the border. I feel like he's on the border, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean he would never get traded for that. Like he just in a startup too. You look like that's kind of like a good range to get like who's taking what over what, and he'll go kind of around that like 204 range is whatever is the thing, but he won't ever get traded for a 205 in a real league, so yeah, he's like an early second.
I think you have to call Lamar Jackson for first. I mean, like, I paid that here, did I not?
Well, I guess that's my point. Is like you might have paid it, but it doesn't mean like I don't know. I don't know if it means he's like worth that. Although he's Lamar Jackson, my point is like even as much as I love these players, like I'm not paying 4 firsts for these guys. Like I'm just like if I'm not going to the Jamar Chase owner or whoever it is. Because I can't afford to pay 4 firsts for one player. I got to find the next Jamar Chase, and I just think a lot of people generally think like that. So it's hard to call them. Maybe 3.5 is a better way to put it. Just So
Okay. You gotta at least give me this: Lamar Jackson and Alvin Kamara combined.
yeah, okay, 4 first.
Like, you cannot argue with that.
No, that's good. Yeah, I was just going to suggest that 4 first. So I don't even know where we're getting
Plus
with all
Henry
this,
is
but
5. Plus
yeah, Henry the third. It'll call 5.
Plus
Pickens.
2 for Lad is 8. So I got 8 first on my side,
Okay.
8 first on Steph's side.
And then exactly, he got the 8 first, and then he got Goddard in the second ever. But that's close enough. Like so it's a pretty, and that's, I didn't even look at that before, but just looking at the deal as a whole, pretty damn fair deal and value somehow with all these players. I mean, this is a pretty tough deal just from my perspective. Like, I don't really know what side I'd rather have. I kind of like those guys on the right side a little bit more just in general. Because, I mean, the guys on the left, there's better players, and oh man, I love Kamara and stuff like that. I don't know. I for some reason, whatever reason it is, I'm leaning to the right. I've been really high on Knicks. I've been coming around on Rice for sure. And it's Chain and Barkley. I mean, like, who doesn't want those guys? But of course, they're pretty risky assets, which we'll get into your perspective now.
Well, yeah, I think that was a big part of this deal. Is it's like how I like to build my dynasty team in year 1 of a league, and just like we talked about, I want to compete, but I also want to be like building up assets in the long term. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Barkley and A-Chain. Like, those guys can be on my dynasty team anytime. But if I'm truly like sticking to my process as much as possible, those are running backs that have a lot of value tied into them. We know running backs are volatile in Dynasty with their production, with their value. It can change a lot year to year. I mean, look at Breece Hall. A year ago, he's worth 3 firsts. Now he's worth like what, 1.5 firsts to like most managers out there. Most managers probably wouldn't pay 2 firsts for Breece, even though I think he's worth it, and you probably do as well, but probably the majority don't. So basically, Breece's value just chopped in half, and didn't even have that bad of a season. Like, he was pretty good until he got injured. Now he's, his value's cut in half. So you never know. That could happen to Barkley. That could happen to A-Chain. I mean, of course, like, Barkley has the pedigree, but like A-Chain, he's like what, 3rd round draft capital, smaller back. I mean, who knows? Like, what if Jalen Wright has a breakout in year 2? What if Ollie Gordon comes in there and he, recaptures the glory of like his junior, or was it sophomore year, or whatever, in college, when he was just like amazing before he had the bad season. But yeah, I mean, he looked like he was going to be like the next big thing at running back for a minute there, or for a season. So you just never know. Those are volatile assets. I mean, speaking of volatile assets, I mean, you can even put Rashee Rice in that category. I mean, I'm huge on Rice. I mean, as you know, I'm high on him. I think he's a great buy in Dynasty. So I definitely wasn't excited about losing Rice. But if I'm prioritizing the long term over just winning this season, it is kind of nice. Because, like, for context on this trade, like, Rice wasn't in the first offer I sent. I basically sent one offer. I got some feedback from Sebastian. He wanted Rice added. So then I added Pickens. I had removed like an additional second that I was going to give Sebastian. And then I modified it, and then Sebastian accepted it. So that's basically how it happened. So yeah, I guess like Pickens is volatile too, and he's not worth as much, but I think he's a good buy as well. But what's nice is that like heading like into next year, I don't have to worry about like, oh, now Rice is going to get that suspension in like 26 or whatever. So I don't know. Like,
if you're hanging on to these assets, like if we were living in a world where, obviously Sep's going to trade away probably all these guys by the season.
But yeah, I'm thinking of a long term, and it's like, I'm thinking like, okay, Rice could face a suspension next year. Barkley could lose value. A-Chain could lose value. We know Warner's going to lose value. And then Bo Nix, like, I think he could have like an awesome second season, and then he could potentially skyrocket in value if he does. But if it's just kind of like a middling season or a slightly disappointing season, then all of a sudden, like, he could kind of go down in value or just kind of stagnate. Whereas like Lamar Jackson just feels so insulated, as does Lad McConkey. And then even basically going from like, because like originally when I sent this offer, I don't know, I guess it sort of depends on how you look at it, in terms of like the 1v1, across this trade. But like one way I look at this trade is sort of turning like Goddard into George Pickens. I don't know. There's a million different ways you could look at it.
Yeah.
Basically, in summary, I'm basically shifting value from running back to quarterback and wide receiver. That's what it comes down to. That's why I did it. Let me insulate that value in the form of like Lamar Jackson, Lad McConkey, even George Pickens to some extent. And then, while at the same time, I'm probably not going to lose that much production at running back, going from Barkley and A-Chain to Henry and Kamara. Like, yes, I'm going to lose some production probably.
You might gain some somehow, but because they're just those are just 4 really good running backs.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, I like Barkley and A-Chain are probably 2 of my biggest like worried about running backs, like as good as they are.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's weird because like I love them so much. I think they're so awesome and could like win you leagues, but at the same time, like they're very risky assets to hold. So it's kind of like that concept you mentioned earlier of like, what's like the cheapest starting lineup I can like come up with while like building up my war chest of assets and value. And to me, like that just screams Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
I just get these like cheap running backs where if they disappoint or go to 0, okay, so what? Who cares? I didn't have much value tied into them. I still have Lamar Jackson. I have Lad McConkey. I even have George Pickens, who I'm, fingers crossed, like he's as good as I think he might be this season. So I just feel like I really insulate that value while still like not really losing that much in the short term.
Yeah.
So I do think this is a fascinating trade where it's kind of like you can look at it so many different ways and you could kind of convince yourself differently, like, oh, you know what, maybe I like that side better after all. Maybe I like that side better. So it really is pretty fascinating.
Let's see what the people are saying here in the comments. So Cooper is saying he said he would give out 4 firsts for Lamar. I think Coop's a big trade up guy. Seen him a few of those in the league I'm with him there. And then he says, there's only the hypothetical 4 firsts. It doesn't have to be actual 4 firsts, but it could be in the form of players or different ways.
Someone could get like someone could trade me.
It could be Knicks and Rice.
What?
It could be like Knicks and Rice or Knicks and Barkley.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. So yeah, it might not actually be like 4 first-round picks, but it's going to be the equivalent. So I really think it is pretty fair to say that Lamar is worth 4 firsts, and yeah, if you squint and say Kamara's worth a first, you could even argue like I got an extra first on my side. But of course, Sebastian does get the second in the deal, so I really do think it's very fair.
Yeah, exactly. And so then Cooper's saying QB war. Says elite QB is the only thing that really matters spending your capital on.
Who said that? Cooper?
Cooper, yeah. And then you have to be very confident in what you're getting to spend, 4 firsts, of course. And then Seb's also saying, accept my trade if you like Rice, because he's trying to. He's like, it's a really good deal for Rice, but there's one issue. It was what we were talking about earlier, where it just when you're giving up a first, you might be getting a fair deal or even a little bit of a good deal, but when you're giving up a player, Devontae Adams, that can outscore or produce the same as Rice,
right,
and a first, which could be more than Rice next year because it could be a really good one. Then I want to be on that side, so that's what he's referring to. But it is a good offer that Josh and I are considering. So. And it's really testing me because I've really been coming around on Rice here, and I think it's
right.
I'm not paying 2 firsts, which I mean I'm getting back in on that. He probably should be worth that, and I'd probably be paying if it's just a little bit less than that, I'd be willing to pay it in leagues.
It's so funny because like you're falling into the same like I guess like trap I'll call it that like I kind of fell into in no pun intended league where you had Rashee Rice. And you were basically trying to get, like, from me, a Mecca Buka and a first. And
exactly. Because I'm trying to get that.
I feel like it should be worth 2 firsts.
Yeah, but I know why you didn't do it, because I don't want to give up a first in Devontae Adams in the league where I'm contending.
Exactly. So now you know how I feel, where it's like, I wouldn't sell Rice unless I'm getting, like, 2 firsts or, like, as close to it as possible. But then, like, at the same time, like, I don't really want to spend it. You know what I mean? Because it just feels like I don't know.
There's a lot of players like that.
It feels like either a bad process or just the fact that like
it's just not like a winning process trade.
It just doesn't seem like a winning bet. I mean, I guess if this is what would feel better for Rice. If I'm moving like a 26 first and a 27 first for Rice, like that I could stomach, because at least like, okay, I'm trading away some of the future, but I'm adding this piece. But if I'm trading like Adams in a first or a Buka in a first, it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, what if Adams, like you said, is like produces as well as Rice, or what if a Buka just ends up being a stud and then like
it ends up being better than Rice,
much or more than Rice, and I lost a first, so like. Yeah, it's just a tricky one, and then you add to that the risk with Rice of, the suspension.
And he's certainly volatile, yeah. Like he's certainly volatile. Like that's the one thing still I don't like love about him is there's still question marks, but by one reason that I've really come around on him is just the fact that like it doesn't seem, I'm not hearing anything about his suspension. Whether that's like the reason to come around a bit or not, but like, I mean, truly, if he was suspended to start the first month or later, I mean, that's a huge hit on him, and that's a window to buy him. If that's not gonna happen, like, you gotta buy him now if you're gonna get him. And it's like, all right, like that's nice, but like, yeah, I mean, if the, your dad, like the doctors are right, and he's just good to go right now, like. What am I waiting for here? Like, I better get in on him now before he's scoring 18 points per game or higher again.
But the problem is if like you're actually paying 2 first, it's like how much is there to gain in terms of value? I mean, I guess like you're getting.
But it would be, I guess, because you and I believe like one of the reason I've been buying him is because as volatile as like he's been feeling to me this offseason. I do think it's realistic he keeps his price, or in season actually gains value because of just how productive he projects out to be.
He could a little bit, but like how much? Like, could he be worth like 2.5 first? Like that's probably about the season.
I think it's here's and again, this is where it gets like a little more tricky of like, I don't know, like nuance in the trade, but like his value might not go up that much, but if he's a league winner, like you're gonna get anything you want for him. So it's just like, and then let's say, I can make a Buka or someone like that. Like, let's say there's a rookie that's not really producing year one, but like, it's Ladd McConkey early in the season, last year. And it's like
2 firsts.
And it's like I'm getting like 2 firsts and Ladd that like, you could have probably done that week 3 last year, but like you all of a sudden you have so much more access to what people are willing to trade for this player because of how productive they are. And that's what's really changed my tied here on Rice, because if he can do that week 1, like everyone's gonna be back in, just like they were last season. So yeah, I'm hesitant with buying him, but like I've got a couple good prices I thought on him. So
that's the thing. You kind of get spoiled if you're able to get him for like a first and a half in another league, and it's like, oh man, like I don't want to pay 2 firsts now after I got this nice deal in this other league. So
yeah. I mean, the one, I basically traded. I mean, damn near Olave straight up for him, and I love Olave, so that says a lot. But I mean, you're not getting much more than a first for him. But
I got him. I got Rice straight up for RJ Harvey. Now it wasn't a 0.25 point per carry league, but still, I thought that was a pretty nice deal. I mean, basically got him for a late first. I mean, how can you
that's what I mean. I mean, that's what I was saying too. Like, I mean, at that point, I didn't even come really around to Rice, but I was just like, yeah, you gotta take that. Like, that's awesome. I wish I got offered something like that, though it was a point per carry. So, anyways, back to the. Back to what were we even talking about? The trade?
I don't know if we had quite fully wrapped up this trade here, but just like my final thought on it, I mean, another way I was just kind of looking at the trade is like, of course, like I want Lamar Jackson over Bo Nix. I think, Ladd and Saquon, you could say, are a wash. And then, of course, let's see. I don't know. I had it written down. Like, I don't know. It gets complicated, but like, I think we probably talked about it enough.
Yeah. You know what? I think is kind of gets me in this because I've really come around on Nix and Rice this offseason. In fact, like I think like Nix like might be one of my like favorite just like buys of just like. I just can't believe how low he's going in startups. At least in a startup.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
In a startup, and we had to pass on because we got such a good trade in here. Otherwise, we would have been so happy to just have Bo Nix. But like Trent and I just got Bo Nix at, what was it, 311 or something ridiculous, and we were trying to trade up, and we couldn't, and he just fell to it in our lap, and it's just like, dude, how is he gonna? like, how's he actually going to lose any kind of value? Like, maybe he can go down a few slots in the startup if he has a terrible season, but, like, I mean, CJ Stroud was just QB 33 in points per game. Bo Nix had a better rookie season than him. And, like, look where CJ Stroud's still going well above him right now. Like, or whatever. He's going ahead of him. And I'm just having a tough time figuring out how Bo Nix is not a good, at least startup value. Now, in leagues, his price can alter and, based on availability and whatever, but he's been a really big target in startups for me. So I like him as like a down tier off Lamar, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I got him in this startup, in the, what was it, like mid-third, I think. And then I got him in another startup I did, like in the around the mid-third. So yeah, I just love the value on him. So yeah, I mean, I really do think this is a great deal for both sides. I mean, I think it makes sense for Sebastian too, because he's in more of like a just like go all in, like win this season, to some degree. So I think he's more willing to take on the risk of, the volatile running back assets and like Saquon and A-Chain. And who knows? Like, I mean, maybe he wasn't even thinking of it that way because, like, obviously he's not like an experienced Dynasty player like we are.
Yeah.
But either way, I can see just being a win now team. Like, oh man, you give me like Saquon and A-Chain, and I still got Bo Nix as an awesome quarterback, and I got Rashee Rice. Who could be an awesome guy in terms of like points per game this season, and probably won't get suspended this year. So I could, and then Goddard in a 2 PPR for tight ends. Like, so like I really think this is like tailor made for a win now team in terms of Sebastian's side, and simultaneously like I'm getting exactly what I wanted in terms of how I want to build a dynasty team in the first year of the league. So I really do think this is a perfect deal. In fact, like I even said to Sebastian after we made it, like this might be one of my favorite trades ever. Like I just think it's like awesome for both sides. It's so much fun to do. I just think like, I mean, maybe some of the other trades that have gone down in break room. I mean, I don't want to like speak for anyone else, but like I'm sure even Sebastian and Colossal would admit that maybe some of those trades were just for fun or whatever. But like this is one that I think really did have great purpose on both sides and was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I mean, this will be one where maybe we can try to remember in season or something to.
Oh yeah, look back on this.
Come back on it.
Sure, I think it'll be interesting.
Because that's always a fun thing with trades, especially ones where there's just you can look at it so many different ways, and just to see, for future reference, like here's the process. And like, okay, in this scenario, it went really good or really bad, or it ended up being like a good, whatever, like a reasonable deal. And then when you go, so then you can like learn off it and be like, hey, like, maybe I should make more deals like that, or like, like that didn't work out, but maybe it was a good deal and I got unlucky, or vice versa. So, that would be fun to look at back at the end of the season or whatever. Because there's some volatile assets on both sides of this deal.
Oh yeah, and I love the players that Sebastian got in the deal. I mean, that's why I own those players, and I definitely wasn't excited about giving any of them up, but I also really liked what I was receiving, and it just made sense with what I wanted to do. So I just really thought it was a perfect deal for both managers. Yeah,
and we had a couple more comments. Yeah, Cooper was saying, as much as he liked Lamar, he said he still prefers the Barkley side, but it's close, and he said deals even if you take out Pickens and Rice for him, if you just remove them from the deal.
That was added in there, so good on Sebastian to get that little bit extra in the trade. Like I definitely think that made a difference in terms of if you take that out,
that's a big difference for me.
You're probably like taking my side. So.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, like I mean, like Rice over Pickens. Like as much as I still like Pickens and everything, I mean that's a pretty big like upgrade to me.
Well, yeah, I mean I did remove a second though when I added that Rice Pickens swap. So basically, I still wasn't proving the offer though, because
I still like that. Like I prefer the Rice to Pickens version, even with that extra second on the other one.
Oh yeah, and that was the point. That like I was.
I might prefer your side though. Still, like if you remove Rice out of this deal, and Pickens and add the second, like I think I probably am on your side. Like that might just be the thing swaying me.
So I mean, you could argue that like maybe my first offer was like slightly in my favor, and then maybe this modified final version that was completed, you could argue, yeah, is it slightly in Seb's favor? But I really think it's very even. It could really go any number of ways with all these different players in it, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of seasons they have and how their dynasty values change. Like, yeah, I mean, one side of this could end up running away with it, but I think it was good process for both sides, and I think it's a very fair deal today.
Yeah, exactly. I think especially, like thinking about what the deal would look like if it was like the original offer. Yeah, I mean, that means it's a pretty fair deal. If I was willing to say, like, I probably would prefer your side if those things were, removed or added. So, yeah, overall, a pretty damn fair deal. And anytime you have 5 really relevant players on each side of a deal, it's really just like pick whatever side of players you like more. I mean, like, that's what all trades come down to. But there's so many damn players in there. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. So yeah, I mean, this is a wild one. But yeah, overall, good trade.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe it's like already like 11 o'clock. I think we've been streaming for like 2.5 hours now or something close to
at least 2.
Yeah, at least 2. So. Time goes by quickly when we're talking Dynasty, but it's been a super fun stream. Are you good to wrap it up here?
Yeah, I'm good to wrap it up.
Okay. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. Cooper, Seb. Did we ever see Colossal in here? Hopefully, he'll probably watch the replay. I'll definitely let him know that we covered those trades. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps. Really helps out the channel, inspires us to keep doing these streams, which we absolutely love doing. And we hope you like the new day for Dynasty and Beers, with it being Thursday now. So that's probably going to be the new trend here for us. And of course, Dynasty Goats will continue to be on Sundays. We're definitely planning on doing one this Sunday. And yeah, we will see